Hello, hello, my Soulpreneur Life family and friends. Today we have a brand new segment that I am so excited to introduce. We're calling it Off the Cuff, and it's just going to be the raw, the real, and it's a collaboration with actually someone that I adore, one of my Army brothers. His name is Bryan Miller, and he is going to introduce himself, but we just want to get on for this first segment and talk to you all about how you can balance some things and how this new year often hits so many of us like a gut punch, right? It just hits us in the face. But before I get too far along with that, this is Bryan. Go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody.
So I'm Bryan Miller. Like Kendra stated, we were in the Army family together. I did 22 years. I just recently retired, probably like nearly 3 years ago. I got out and started my own business, and we'll get into that later, probably in more podcasts. But I'm married, got 4 children, and so my life is fairly busy. So off to you. Yeah.
A lot of people can relate to that busyness and just, that transition that comes whenever someone either changes jobs or decides to retire or starts to see themselves in a new light, right?
Yes.
Creates a whole new world. A whole new world is just opened up for each of us.
Well, we all stress about the change that we can't see, right? And so we stress of the unknown. But what I've learned through all this, because I was afraid when I first got out, and I did all the jobs, and I would say even most veterans, they're going to find 5 or 6 jobs in the first year before they find their niche. And so you just got to be you got to jump. I think Steve Harvey stated that in one of his podcasts, is that at the end of the day, you have to just jump to another stage, or you'll never find out.
Yeah, exactly. So I think I know a lot of people can relate to that, and that fear of the unknown or the unseen, and saying like, can I do it? And can I trust in my own talents? Can I trust in my own skills and abilities if I need to bring in money, or if I need to do all of these things because I have a family, because I have a partner or kids and all of that, right? Like that adds this unseen thing called stress and fear and all of that, right? So with us just entering into this new year, January is coming to a close now, but with us entering into this new year, how do you think it would benefit others to kind of tackle, instead of having like a new year resolution, where a lot of people are notoriously known for not completing it or not sticking to it throughout that whole year? What do you think would be some sage advice for someone?
Well, let's think about this, right? Nobody takes like the backwards kind of approach, right? And so, what I mean by that is we go into November and December, Thanksgiving, the holidays, Christmas, and we spend all of our money on our kids or whatever the case, on holidays and traveling and doing all that. And then we go, okay, we're going to do better in January. It's a new year, new me, all that blah, blah, blah stuff, right? But they don't take those things, those considerations, that you go in this happy season, and then because you didn't kind of plan it out, you launch on like right after New Year's, January 3rd, 4th, whatever. And we're either in a gym, we're trying to launch a new business, we're trying to do whatever new thing, new me, right? And we just came out of this happy season. And then I think by mid-January, because we went into this thing like individual, number one, individual, vision, without our life circumstances drawn into that. And then January 15th hits us, and now everything hits us. Our kids, our life, our responsibilities, all that stuff hits us. And then all of a sudden you have this new adventure that you had, now it goes to the wayside because you didn't plan it correctly. And I know we've stated like going to the gym, for example, we brought that up because it's always that new year, new me, new gym.
Yeah.
And so you start out right out the gate, January 3rd, whatever, right? Going to the gym. Well, the first week or so, you're hitting it hard. And then all of a sudden, you're all sore. You're sleepy. You're going to work sluggish. Your kids are like, what is wrong with mom or dad? And you're just irritable because your whole body hurts.
Yeah.
And then by January 30th, or, you're basically like, I'm done with this. I can't do it. I can't do everything.
Yeah. All the
And
excuses seep in.
right. And so what we should, I think in my opinion, is that we got to take it in nuggets, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of times when we do a new resolution, it's not a new resolution. You've
Yeah.
done it before.
Mhm.
You've done it in your lifespan at some point. And
Mhm.
so just start it with like 5 minutes and do it for 30 days or 45 and create that habit. And if you have to involve your family, which I suggest, and involve it in your planning of your day, of your work and cooking and all of it, lunch dates, whatever,
Yeah.
like your kids' calendar. Oh my goodness. Can we get on kids' calendar? Because every time I turn around, I got to put a new outfit on them, or I'm
Yeah.
trying to ask my wife, like, what do we got to do? Like, what is this week?
Yeah,
Oh.
for real.
And so I think if you made a calendar of your goal and it had its 5 minutes or 10 minutes a day, whatever that is, then you're training yourself for that 45 days and it creates a
I
habit.
love that so much. And I know a lot of people that I've worked with are they were repelled by the idea of calendars and schedules and things of that nature. But I love having and this started in the military for me, but scheduling everything on my Google Calendar, for example.
Yeah.
And if something comes up, like say, I have a meeting with someone or someone comes up and is like, hey, let's catch lunch or let's do lunch and catch up and, whatever. I pull out my phone right then and there and say, okay, let's find a date and time right now. And let's lock it in. Right. And we can follow up about where exactly we want to meet, but let's find time on the calendar to do it. And when it comes to working out, I know an example for me, rewinding back to being a new mom, right? And feeling really overwhelmed because at that time I was married, I was still on active duty and I had soldiers, a whole combo shop and all of those other responsibilities. And I still had to get back in shape, right? They had me on the books for master fitness trainer. So I'm like, how am I going to do this? When am I going to do this?
Right.
So every time I would walk to the bathroom or every time I would do a certain, get to this certain area by my office, I would do push-ups or I would do sit-ups and it would just be I had Post-it notes and my soldiers would do it with me at this point, right? And they'd come over and they'd encourage me. And that's community. Community helps us stay motivated and connected to our goal and our desire, even if it's only for 30 seconds, 1 minute of doing push-ups or 10 push-ups or however long that takes, right? But it gets you closer to your goal, closer to that desire without you feeling depleted or alone or like it's impossible, right? It's stepping stones to that mountain that you're climbing.
And you bring up a great point there, and I love it, is that I think if you your coworkers, kind of like what you stated, and or your family, you need to set up a meeting with them and say, I am truly want to do this for me and us, right? And have that, this is a goal for me. And guess what? This may even build a platform for your family where you have that discussion with the spouse that you go, okay, I have a goal to lose 10 pounds for January. This may spark something within your spouse, hey, you know what? I need to lose 10 pounds too. Can we compete with this? And then all of a sudden, maybe your children hear you see this, and now you're setting an example, right? And now your children are like, you know what? I want to, raise my grade to an A this semester or this month. And so what is our prizes? What is our resolution? What's our, for you had master fitness. And so obviously you had to graduate that, right?
Yes.
But what are those milestones? And are you putting those on your calendar, right? Every week you have another meeting with whoever your support group is, kind of like what you mentioned, and you
Mhm.
congratulate yourself.
Yeah.
Like have a milestone moment. Like I lost a pound. Heck yeah. Like what is the next one? Like,
Yeah.
or like, hey, you just got your first client. Like, oh my goodness, yes, right? Or
Celebrate that mess.
yeah,
Yes.
I made $1. That's significant because guess what? You had zero,
I know, right? I
right?
love that you brought that up because so many, I can't speak for the male perspective, but just knowing from being a woman, being a mom, being a leader, all of these things, it's like I rush past and I had to train myself to slow down because for many years I would rush past my accomplishments. Like, okay, I did it. Okay, but I don't want to I don't want to celebrate it too much because there's shame or there's guilt or there's like that embarrassment because people are focusing on me or people are noticing that. And then it's like, well, I don't want people to be jealous or I don't, like we play small. So taking that time to practice celebrating your wins, big or small, not only helps you feel empowered and seen and more aligned in what it is that you are doing and creating, but it allows the people around you to also shine their light and be like, damn, if she could do it, if he could do it, so can I, or why can't I, or I can take this baby step. It doesn't have to be this whole, hike that's 20 miles, but I can do a half a mile or I can do a mile. And, you start building up. And that's the same whether it is working through connecting with your family, losing weight, building your business, changing your mindset, letting go of expectations so that you can be open to receiving more of what it is that you want. I think that that is so beautiful because a lot of times, so many of us skip over the celebration for whatever the reason is. And so taking time to even schedule it when we were on quarantine, we had obviously we had virtual schooling and things like that for Michaela. And again, I love my calendar. So I was working from home, homeschooling, doing all of the things, right? And I would schedule 5-minute breaks throughout the day so that no one could be on my calendar but my daughter. And we would sing Whitney Houston. We would have happy dance breaks. We would do all of these little things to help her mental health, to help my mental health so that we could be together because obviously quarantine, you're stuck together, right? Like, so that
Yeah.
we could have a happy family and a happy team that was cohesive and all of that. So I love that you brought that up.
Well, and it goes back to like we go into January 1st with this new thing or whatever the case, but how many people stop and reflect over the past year, good,
Mhm.
bad, or indifferent, right? And what it was the bad, it's not a bad, it's a lesson learned. So you
Yeah,
got to change that mindset again, right? Everything that I don't say failure. I say that's a lesson learned
yeah.
because everything is a lesson learned, especially if it goes to a bad season and you went through some roller coasters of a ride with your business or whatever.
Mhm.
Look at all those lessons that you learned. You would have
Yeah,
never learned them if you didn't go through it. And so
exactly.
and so I would say even before you start your January journey, like it's just like Christmas, right? The day of blessing. I mean, Christmas is one of those like holidays that it's not about gifts. You should be looking at, God's day and like seeing how much stuff you are blessed throughout that year, good, bad,
Mhm.
or indifferent. And then the other thing too is like what you're mentioning too is how many people watch you, you
Yeah.
know, like, are you an example for other people to emulate or to
Mhm.
ask questions to? And are you a person that when you are wrong, can you say, you know what, I was wrong?
Mhm.
Like, can you teach me something? You know how many jobs I've been on and I'm like, they're like, can you take this wall down? And I'm like, yeah, maybe, we'll get through it. And sometimes I'm like, yeah, we made a mistake. And imagine like telling somebody like a customer, like, I made a mistake, but we're going to correct it and we're going
Yeah.
to leave you in great hands. Right. And so, and I think if you can build those building blocks going into January of your reflection, your support team, who you're surrounding yourself by,
Mhm.
and then doing it with like nuggets of 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day,
Yeah.
I think, and doing that for 30 to 45 days, I think you got a really great platform to be successful as long as you do not get deterred because I'm gonna tell you, it's gonna punch you. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. Like you're gonna be like, I'll never get punched. No, you're gonna get punched.
Yeah.
You're gonna get punched hard. And it's just a matter of which angle. And if
Yeah.
you set your mind up with like the lesson learned is coming. See, it's not the failure is coming, the lesson learned is coming, and how we're gonna bounce from that lesson and launch to the next stage.
Yeah,
You know?
because it's all temporary, right? I always say the good,
Exactly.
the bad, the meh, it's all temporary and it all
Exactly.
cycles through it. And so if you can fall back on, okay, I trust my talents. I trust my ability to be resilient. I trust in my community to help support me on my days where I'm given 80% or when I'm given 100% or whatever it is, right? I think that that's really important as well. And I had another thought when you were sharing, and
Reflection.
yeah, and you know, sometimes we find ourselves in this routine where it's okay, it's the new year, I'm planning all of these things. I'm planning, I'm working out this much, I'm shopping this much, I'm meal prepping, I'm connecting with my family, we're having these meetings, we're doing these rotations, I'm working, I have all of these projects for my business or networking events. Schedule rest, intentional rest, not rest where you're laying there like, oh, it's 6:30 or it's 7 o'clock and I feel guilty. I should be getting up. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. No, schedule intentional rest. This was something that was very hard for me, especially coming out of the military. I don't know how it felt for you, but not getting out of bed at that, my normal routine that had been for so many years, right? Like not getting out of bed right away was a challenge. But, trying to go to therapy and trying to learn how to like decompress and kind of allow myself to rest, I couldn't do it. I had to schedule it into my life. And so,
So
yeah,
I'm a little different with that one. I go hard all the
yeah,
time,
yeah.
and then I allow my body to go, hey, it's nap time. And when that happens, I tell my family already knows, like, Dad's going to take a nap because it's like, and I'm out of gas.
Yeah,
And so I just go and I lay down, and it's been like my way of doing it. And, you know, but I agree with you. You have to have some kind of rest built in there.
yeah,
And when you say rest, it could be not even napping, just
yeah.
a rest where maybe you're in a quiet room
Mhm.
and you have soft music, um, or you have a routine where at nighttime, which is huge. And I had to learn this too, is you should be shutting down your devices and everything for at least an hour. I think it might even be more than that before
Mhm.
bed, but they call it sleep nutrition.
Mhm.
And you got to shut down all your devices, read a book, you know, and just do that or meditate. I've got good friends of mine that wake up in the morning and they meditate, before they start their day. Um, and it rests your brain, and on top of that too, is that, one thing I heard from somewhere, I can't remember who stated it, but it's like when you wake up in the morning, you should never touch your phone. When you first wake up, you should never touch your phone, because as soon as you touch your phone, you're looking at messages or work related stuff or whatever. You need to find a habit where you wake up in the morning, and like I like to wake up and listen to certain YouTube, motivational stuff and different things like that, or soothing music, or I'll get disco going and singing for my kids before school.
Yeah,
And then I set up, okay, time to engage. And then I start planning my day and going that route.
yeah,
So um, if you're not used to that yet, I would say you have to build some sense of a routine, because you
yeah,
probably already have it built in. It's just not how would I say it? You have a forced routine and
yeah,
not a routine of your control. And I tell my kids and my wife, like, you got to wake up every day and own your day,
yeah,
regardless if some of that stuff is forced mechanisms that's already in your day, like school and work at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. Those are all forced mechanisms. But how are you waking up and owning your day of positivity? Are
Yeah.
you singing? You're getting your kids off to school in the right positive manner? Or are they like, I hate school. I can't do this. This sucks. And
Yeah.
then you're cranky because you didn't get your coffee yet. And you're like,
Stress.
shut up. And then just get in the kitchen. And all the words are all negative.
Yeah.
And then the wife's like, you're an idiot. Why didn't you do this yesterday or whatever? And now you're upset. You get in your truck, you're going to work and you're going on heavy metal music like screw the world. And then you get to work and then everybody's like, man, this guy's an a-hole all the time. Like, what is going on?
Yep.
But if you get up and own it and
Mhm.
like, you know, music and good vibes and the whole family's got good vibes. Because I'm
Yeah.
telling you, my wife will tell you, like if I'm not on a good vibe, the whole family's not going to be on a good vibe. And we got
Yeah.
to rewind and
Yeah.
like relaunch.
Yeah. I totally understand that. And, I'm a single mom, so that's something that I've really tried to do to
Like,
varying degrees, but it's like it really does make a difference, and it starts from the inside out. And for those of you who are listening, like a part of your lifestyle change, instead of saying I need a new year, a new me, no, you are good enough, you are whole. All you need to do
yeah,
is refine who you are, how you're showing up for yourself, how you're showing up for your family, how you're showing up for your experience or your creations and things of that nature. And something that I've done for years now since my daughter started pre-K was we would get up. I would try to get up before her. And in the beginning, I've been very honest and transparent about this. I was numbing with alcohol. So I often woke up with a hangover at that point earlier on. So I wouldn't get up too much earlier than her, but I would try to get up earlier than her and get myself together as far as getting dressed, getting my hair done, getting my clothes on and listening to music. And then on the ride to school, she and I would talk about things that she was grateful for, that we were grateful for. And that is her automatic response now, right? Instead of expecting things to be negative. During my period of toxicity, during my period of hurt and healing and all of that, she was programmed to kind of lean into gratitude. So when you start to do that nowadays, here we are years later. I wake up before her, I get myself together. I use my phone as the alarm. So I turn that off, but then I sit up, I stretch, and then I just give thanks for waking up. I start off with
amen,
gratitude, because even when
amen.
I wake up and I'm like, oh my gosh, my body is in pain. I am in pain today.
Yeah.
I take a deep breath, I stretch, and I just say, thank you for waking up, right? Like I find something to be grateful for. And I know in the Army, we called it hunting the good stuff. And I thought it was absolutely ridiculous. And I hated those trainings with every, every cell of my being when we did them, the resiliency training, but it truly does change your life when you are open to receive it. So if you're closed off and you're not open to change, change is not going to happen. If you are closed off and you are negative because life has always been hard, life has always been challenging, well, my love, it's always going to be challenging and it's always going to be rough for you because you are not open to change, because you are not putting yourself in situations or environments or in the mindset to receive anything different than what you've already been creating, right? So I felt like I needed to share that because I know.
No, I agree with you. And it goes to, there's two things I got on that. Is like a lot of people go, well, I have to go to work. I have
Yeah,
to do.
yeah,
And all you have to do is say, I get to do these things.
exactly.
You get to wake up in the morning. One of the
Yeah.
greatest blessings I heard the other day was one of the greatest blessings that people don't look at is you get to come home.
Mm,
Like how many people like don't like go out the door crazy upset, don't kiss their spouse or kids, don't
yeah,
leave on a positive moment. And that might be the last time they go out that door.
yeah.
And so, and then the other thing too is like, what hard are you choosing? And what I
Hmm.
mean by that is that everything in life is hard,
Yeah,
everything, especially if it's going to be a challenge and lessons learned combined to that, right?
yeah,
Like, are you choosing your hard? Like, or is life like choosing that hard for you? You're
yeah.
like waking up 10 minutes late already. You're rushing through crap. Like you're
Mm,
yelling, you're cursing at everybody. And you're allowing life to choose your hard
mhm.
versus you waking up just a few minutes early. Like legitimately, if that's one of your goals, start with waking up 10 minutes early. 15 minutes early, and then gradually work yourself up an hour early, and then tie in like, positive thinking and stuff like that.
Mhm.
It will blow your mind if you do that for 30 days.
Yeah.
Blow your mind if you just wake up and receive some kind of positivity and prayer and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
your heart will become like second nature.
Mhm.
And then you're just going at it. You're grinding and you didn't even, like, you're just, it is what it is.
It becomes your new normal. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
It becomes
And
your new normal.
that's that essence, right? That's that reflection piece, is that if you start doing those small practices at the beginning of the year and it turns into a habit, man, it's ruthless. Like, you'll be like like something, a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah. And it's something that is available to each and every single one of us too, right? No matter our financial situation, no matter anything, like, you are able to control certain aspects to varying degrees that can improve your mindset and improve your health, improve the way that you're showing up. Even if it's, I'm just going to go to bed 10 minutes sooner than I normally would. And you wake
Well,
up at the same time.
and think about improving your surroundings. Like,
Yeah.
imagine, like, if you just change the way that you're thinking, right?
Mhm.
Just like you were mentioning about your daughter, right?
Yeah.
Kids already see your struggles.
Yeah.
They just haven't voiced them. So they already seen mama waking up late, struggling with herself, whatever the case.
Yeah.
But now, because you've planted a seed in her mind, she's
Mhm.
holding you accountable now on
Mhm.
the structure that you built. And
Yeah.
so that's the piece of having that support structure around you, with your children or whatever it is. And so, and I see my son all the time. Sometimes he'll pick up a song and he'll just be singing it and be happy for days.
Yeah.
And it's just planting the seed,
Yeah.
right? And just like your coworkers, I know we did it in the Army. You know, I could be a supervisor, but some of the greatest things, some of the soldiers will tell me that I impacted their life. They have no idea how good they impacted my life, just by like planting a seed, watching them grow, and just
Mhm.
me being a positive light towards them. I
Yeah.
mean, like, just going to somebody that, if anybody's listening right now, I just want them to go to work one day and just go up to an individual that you've never talked to, but you've seen them work and bust their butt. And you go up to them and say, you know what? You've been doing great things at this workplace. You've been doing, you're always positive. You're busting your butt. And I appreciate you around here. You just do that one time a week,
Yeah.
and just watch the chain reaction off of that positive note. Just
Yes.
watch.
Not
Just
just for
watch.
you, but for them and everyone around them too. It is insane. Yes. And the words specifically, like the phrase, I appreciate you, has been something I've been using for a few years now, specifically. Like, I changed it in my brain because I realized how powerful words were, right? And pausing, even in the midst of whatever it was I was feeling, to just say, I appreciate you, people's faces, people's shoulders, like, you almost see the weight just kind of like release, and like they just kind of like this and just take a breath. And for some people, they're caught off guard because
Yeah.
they have gone so long without hearing that or feeling that, like
Yeah.
they felt invisible, they felt unseen, they felt undervalued. And so not only is it you are providing something for yourself by staying in gratitude, right? But you are providing something for the people within your orbit, for the world around you. And you're
Hmm.
making the world a better place, which is huge,
Yeah.
right? And it's so
Well,
easy to do.
what, and the other thing is no, like, we don't pause
Mhm.
to understand that everybody has some kind of struggle going on, right? And
Mhm.
I use this analogy, I think that's the right word, like in the Army, right?
Yeah.
I call it the flat tire incident, right? And let's just say we have a soldier, right, that comes to work and was running late and had a flat tire,
Yeah.
right? Or a blowout, whatever, right?
Mhm.
now he's getting yelled at for being late,
Yeah.
right? And now he's mad. He's having the worst day of his life. But no one stops to go, well, why did that flat tire happen? Like, why did that tire get to the point of that happening? Right. And so, okay, now we got money issues because he can't afford a tire. Right. Well, what's going on at home? And nobody asks, like, okay, what's going on? Like, what's your dynamics?
Yeah.
Like, well, you know, my wife lost her job. We've been struggling to pay the rent, and we were going to do this, but the money got tight and I had to pay this.
Yeah.
And now, on top of all the negative crap he's dealing with in his life, now you're at work yelling at him instead of like, okay, what can we do to help him get the tire? I don't care if you were late. Let's dive into this a little bit. You're amazing at work. This is not necessarily you. Let's talk about it. Let's get you back on the horse.
Seeing them as a person first, right?
Yes. And so
Like
that's,
people
and
first.
yes. And that's what I'm getting at is like when you're at work, if you know that a coworker's been like amazing, and then like an abnormal something happens, give them a, I call it a Scooby snack. Like give them a Scooby snack. Like give them a kudos. Like I appreciate you. Like we couldn't do what we do here at work without you here.
Yeah.
Or better yet, how's your family? How's the family? How's the kids? Like, how's
And
everything going?
genuinely listen for the response, right?
Yes. Be genuine though. Don't just go through the motion, just be genuine. And man, just that chain reaction. But it goes back to that January thing, is that kick it off in motion and slow and you know, slow things, right?
Yeah.
Watch people around you, watch you.
Mm-hmm.
That way they may be emulating you. And then that positive thinking. And now you're re-encouraging people around you, changing your train of thought, right?
Yeah.
And
Or possibly giving them a new skill set or
yes,
a coping technique for when they're not feeling positive. This is something that I've also had to learn, and not just for myself, but for my daughter, right? Because no one ever taught me that it was okay to feel anything other than like showing the facade of, oh, I'm fine, it's okay. Like
yeah.
it was always, there's shame for going to therapy, there's shame for asking for help, there's shame for needing support, right? So I carried that with me into adulthood. So learning those coping techniques for myself as an adult and then trying to translate that to my child has taught me that sometimes when you're giving people Scooby snacks or you're giving people grace, you're giving people room to be human, right? It's giving so much. Oh my gosh, I have chills just because it's providing so much more than you could ever imagine, and it's inspiring someone to shine brighter than they could have if they didn't have that 30 seconds with you, that minute with you, when you just see them as human and you genuinely care and you hold space for them.
Well,
And
the other thing too is like in a military, you know, is like, or even right now, like because you've opened that platform to like go, hey, how's it going? How are you doing? Right? You just made that transfer. And not only are you actually healing yourself by conversating with them, because you're opening up about your feelings. And now you have a duo here that's like, man, yeah, I've been dealing with the same thing. How ironic.
yeah,
And then all of a sudden now both of you, you know, and that's a fine line because I don't like to gossip,
yeah,
but like I try to stay on the fine line of resolution in a positive direction. If somebody comes to me and gossips and like is shaming other people or, you know, F them or screw this job or like I shun them away. Like I will like, nope, you're come back to me when you got some better thoughts. Right. And I'll talk to them, but I'm like, what if you changed your dynamic of like, screw this job? You know, I had a good friend of mine just the other day. She got fired from her job, but she was like, like it wasn't my fault. I'm like, yeah, what happened 3 weeks ago? She got a bad review, right? And I'm like, but like, if we would just change the thinking and go, okay, what happened within my job place? Did I say something wrong? What were the attributing factors of me getting fired? Now, don't get me wrong. I know it happens and people do get fired, and there are people that, you know, say, uh, are basically wanting them out of the workplace. And I know that happens. But at the same time, if we can reflect on our attributing factors up to that point and make ourselves better on the next job, great on us. And so that goes back to that reflection piece that we touched on, is that, no, I'm not perfect. I've been let go on jobs. I've opened my mouth in the military when I shouldn't have, right? Thinking that I knew it all or whatever. And I got smacked, right? Like I got pushed back and right. And so, but I think that if people would just walk a little bit gentler with a more of a positive vibe, especially if your children or your spouse or whoever is around you and letting you know, and you haven't been listening very well, you haven't opened your ears, like people will tell you.
So,
like,
yeah, accountability is something that so many people are offended by sometimes. So when you are wounded, I know speaking from my own personal experience as well too, this is something that I've had to grow out of. But when you are wounded, and especially when you don't realize that you're wounded, you don't realize that you're negative, you don't realize that you're toxic, right? And you are gossiping, or you're in an environment where you are sucking the life out of the room, basically. When people ask you to be accountable for your behaviors, right? For not meeting expectations, for showing up in a way that is not supportive or loving, or where your heart's open and you're pouring into a community or a collective or a dream, and people ask you to be accountable for that, it can feel like an attack, and it can feel like you just want to lash out like a 3-year-old, right? You want to point the finger and blame everyone around you. But when you really stop and you start doing this work for yourself, I don't care if you start your new patterns or New Year's resolution in February, March, April, I don't care when you start it, right? When you decide to make a change, it always starts from the inside out. When you decide to do anything, you have to look at, what was my role? What was my responsibility? Where could I have been different or better? And do I forgive myself for maybe not knowing something, or for not asking for help? Or do I forgive myself for being ego driven, right? Whatever it is, but it starts from the inside out, and then you start to show up different. And when you give yourself forgiveness, you begin to hold space for others. Like, you have more compassion and understanding for others, because not only do you have that lived experience, but you have that reflection to kind of lean on, so that you don't, give unsolicited advice necessarily, but you're able to see when people are coming to you from that wounded place where they're dumping on you, right? Where they're trying to dump, where they're trying to be negative, and say, hey, this is the first, or this is the second time that you've come to me with this problem. What is the solution that you think, you could have for this? And challenge that. I had people when I was very, very toxic and young, like in my 20s or whatnot. And most of the time it was older people who would do this to me. And I didn't realize what was going on at the time. But they would ask me, thanks for sharing that in some way, right? In their own way, they might be sarcastic, but then they'd be like, so what do you think you could have done different? And for a long time, I would focus on the other people in the circumstance instead of myself. But finally, when you get to that point where you realize, like, no, I'm the common denominator here. Like, what should I do? Or what could I have done differently? How could I have responded differently? That begins to change your mindset. That begins to change your energy. That begins to change your environment and the people who are around you. Because the people who when you begin to reach this place in life where gossip and all of that is just not a part of your energy signature. It's not a part of your mindset. So the people who gossip, they don't want to be around you. And so at first you may be like, I'm losing friends. No, you're not losing friends. You're not losing anything. You're making room. Right. And you had
Yes.
mentioned Steve Harvey earlier, and he has this story about one of his, like a car in his mom's driveway, and it was just sitting there. But he kept saying he wanted a new car. He wanted a new car. And his mom was like, but you have one out in the driveway. And he's like, yeah, but it doesn't work. And she's like, well, until you make room for it, where are you going to put a new car? And as soon as he got rid of the car out of her driveway, suddenly he had a brand new car because he made room for it. And that story is applicable to so many different areas of our life, right?
Well, the thing
room.
is that it goes in, like, for example, for me, right? For business,
Mhm.
I feel like obviously I just retired. I'm like a rookie on the street with some of these construction guys that have been doing it for like 20 years.
Yeah.
And then I've got some other guys that have been doing it 5 and 10. And there's just a mantra of like just guys that have done it different years, right? But what they've learned with me is that I don't think about the money or anything. Like I know I'm not the smartest, but my team is, and who I've surrounded myself with, I will call one of them. And I've even told customers this, like, if I can't do the job or I'm not expertise on the job, I'm going to call someone that I know, that I trust, that have either done work on my own house or I've been partnered with them, and we've done the job together. And some of these guys, they're like, you just want to be the helper? Yes, I'll get dirty for you. Like, we're in this together, but I'm making room. And so I go to that because a lot of times we get on this individual kick that we're in on this venture to get just on an individual kick. And I think you're wrong. You cannot do anything in this world by yourself. Like you can't. You cannot. Like, that's just my opinion. Because once you surround yourself by that positive circle and that uplifting and all that, you know, great. And I love Steve Harvey because he has one where he was like, he's talking about how many friends can you call right now? Just pick up the phone and go, hey, I've got flat tire. Can you come help me? Find out how many of those you got that will actually stop what they're doing and come to your aid. And I bet you will not get over 5. And Steve was just like, he had like 3 that he could truly count on. And so, but it goes back to that, like, negative vibes, and the other thing too is something I did in the military that one of my supervisors made me do. They made me do a baseball card. And what I mean by that is that what is your baseball card, or if you had a card, what does it state about you? Like, what is your achievements? What can someone around you say about you? What does your card say about you? It's like going back to high school, right? And the best dressed, the best singer, whatever that they had in your yearbook, right? And it goes back to that, and like that reflection piece and stuff like that. Whatever card of you with your face on it, what could your friends say about you? What could your family say about you? What do you bring to the table? You know, it's like what is your batting average? You know what I mean? What are you batting at? You know what I mean? Like, what aspirations do you have? Like, do you want to be the MVP this year? Like, in your circle, like, so, and that goes back to what we talked about, like, congratulate yourself, those milestones, and if you can sit down and make a card of you, and you start seeing like some of those visible signs, you're doing good, because that's the hardest part. I mean, I still struggle with it some days, and I'm in my 40s. I do have flaws. Everybody does. But if you can identify at least one of those and kind of change it around a little bit, guess what? You just did that on your own. And then go to some of the people that we just talked about that support you and go, hey, I've identified this as being one of my things. Have you guys noticed that? Oh, yeah. And see what their input is.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily have to take their input, but you could listen and just see what they have to say.
And be open to listening and not
Yes.
defensive. Yeah.
And potentially find that coworker that you've never talked to. See how they see you. Because I've done that too. Like peer, like just that peer, like unfiltered, like somebody you don't even know at the workplace. Hey, how do you see me coming in? How do you feel about me?
Yeah.
Oh, you're the biggest bully here. We don't like you. Whatever, right? Like you're the
So
biggest,
many
right?
So many fear that, because what I've learned with working with my clients, just speaking from that perspective, so many people fear that because they fear being seen, they fear judgment, and they fear rejection. And your flaws are not rejecting you. Like, it's an opportunity for you to grow. And that's something that I've been leaning into.
It's an opportunity for new skin.
Yeah.
It's like a snake shedding skin. Like
Yeah.
all you're doing is just rebuilding your skin.
I
That's
think
all
that
you're
is,
doing.
I look at it like a game now,
Yeah.
because I know, especially as a business owner, right? Like, people are like, oh, tell me what you do, or tell me what your title is and things like that. And I often kind of am a little bit sarcastic with it. And like on my website, I have insert fancy title here, right? Because
Yeah.
I feel like we are constantly evolving and growing. And my certifications, my trainings, yeah, they're a part of what helps people to understand me. They're a part of it, but they are not who I am, right? They aren't the transformation that I help people find or get either. Sometimes people get so caught up in titles and in status that they forget or they lose sight of, what was your goal to begin with? What was the desired feeling? What was the desired transformation? Like, you didn't want just $1 million. You don't want $1 million. You want the mental freedom, or you want the joy, or you want the traveling experiences that come with having that, right? So get really clear on that. And what does that feel like? What does that look like for you or your family? And when people lose sight of that, and they start chasing the money, or they start chasing, I have to be skinnier, I have to be skinnier. And it's not about being skinny. It's about, are you healthy? Because I've been incredibly skinny and I was so unhealthy, right? Like, I was living on popcorn and coffee. So, but I was skinny and I was athletic. So people thought I was healthy, but I was absolutely 200% unhealthy, right? So there are layers to this, and that takes personal like accountability. Like, you have to be accountable. You have to be raw. You have to be real with yourself. Call yourself on your own shit, and then start to figure out, okay, I need support in these areas. Let me go find it, and then go find it. And if you get it wrong, well, man, that sucked. Let me try again. Right.
Yeah.
So often people want to write this stuff in permanent ink, like they can never alter or change their path or their journey, right? But we're living, we're breathing, we're constantly evolving and growing. And who we were 5 years ago, 10 years ago is not who we are today. And that's normal. That's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah. Well, and you bring up a great point, right? Is that like your 20s, whatever you do in your 20s builds on your 30s. Whatever you do in your 30s build in your 40s. But the same thing too is that you don't have the same people you had in your life in your 20s.
Yep.
Everybody's there's people in your life that are seasons.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so let them go. If they're
Yeah.
not meant to be there, let them go. Like,
And
quit trying to pull those guys back in. Let
yes,
them go.
so many people hold on to their blocks. They hold on to people. They hold on to environments. They hold on to habits that are blocking them from their blessings, because their hands are full holding on to bullshit. They are holding on to people who don't genuinely want to see them grow. They're holding on to people who do not want to grow themselves. They're holding on to thought patterns. They're holding on to all of these things that can be considered blocks or generational type living habits, right? Like, you're just repeating the process over and over again. It's insanity to have
You're boxing yourself in. You're
yeah.
in this box, right? like you're
Yeah.
talking about. You're in this box
Mhm.
and you're just hitting the same walls with the
Yeah.
same blocks in your little box. Oh,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, oh, the same, but you're not, but it's like business, right? Like
Mhm.
I have like 3 or 4 ventures going on right now,
Yeah.
right? It's just because you got to stay fluid, right? Like if you are, let's just say a shoe salesman,
Mhm.
right? And that's all I'm going to do.
Yeah.
I promise you it's not going to last, right? Unless you change your dynamics of which angles. If you don't have 2 or 3 angles of which way you're going to go with that, right? Like you can't box yourself in or stovepipe yourself into like one avenue. Like the more people
Especially
I meet, yeah, the more people I meet, the better, right?
Mhm.
The more I increase my, knock those walls down
Yeah.
and just here it is, and I have some of the, my wife will tell you, I have some extreme ideas of like business things. And
Yeah.
she's like, here we go. It's gonna happen. And she's like, it's gonna happen. And I said, yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's gonna happen. Like, because I just and it, but it's you gotta be able to take a little bit of risk
Yeah.
to feel that. If you're a person that doesn't take risk, is afraid of failure, you're never ever going to see what's on the other side of that box wall. You'll never go across, you will never open up a little hole in that box and go,
Mhm.
oh, there is another greener like field over there. It's like
Yeah.
those, you know, like cartoon movies where they go through like a nasty mountain or whatever. And then on the other side is this beautiful, magical place of
Yeah.
greener grass and everything else, right? And that's why I go back to January, is that like if you're always boxed in, okay, make you a little hole in your box,
Yeah.
and start like going like inkling by inkling, right? Of just
Yeah.
trying to take a little risk, right? It doesn't have to be jumping in like head over heels, like I'm going to, you know, start a landscaping business, right? Let's just
Yeah.
take that for example, right? What if you just start raking leaves, right? You start raking leaves, right? It didn't cost you very much upkeep. You got some rakes that you bought, some trash bags maybe,
Yeah.
right? That you could reuse, whatever. And you make a few bucks off of that. You get a lawnmower, right? You get a push mower, right?
Stepping
And
stones. Yeah.
right. And you get a push mower. That's maybe a couple $100, right? Stuff that you can attain. Very simple, not a lot of overhead, right? And you just get yards that you can mow with a push mower. Maybe little apartment like areas, duplexes that won't
Yeah.
take you that long. Just start those just in
Yeah.
small increments, right? And that goes with any kind of business. I started small too, and then it just kept growing and I built my clientele and it just kept growing. And then opportunities presented themselves. And
Mhm.
then and then I would tell you, when opportunities present themselves, here comes that you're cutting another hole in your box,
Yeah.
because now your hole is getting a little bit bigger because now you got to take another risk,
Mhm.
right? And you're like, but you're
Yeah.
going to have to take that next step to see what that next opportunity is. And eventually, guess what you just did? You broke down one of the barriers, one of your walls on your box,
Yeah.
and you didn't even know it. And you're already 6 or 7 months down the road.
I had a mentor. He tells this story about his wife,
Mhm.
and it basically boils down to, asking her out took 30 seconds of insane courage, insane bravery, because he just absolutely adores his wife, and he talks about how amazing she was. And he was like, when it came down to, is he going to do it or is he not going to do it, he was like, it just took 30 seconds and it was over before he knew it. But the buildup was the most intense part, right? And that goes
Mhm.
to your business, that goes to taking risks in your life. It
Yeah.
takes 30 seconds of insane courage to just say yes, to
Yeah.
just do it, right?
Yeah.
And I think about, going to airborne school and kind of that first jump where I exited out of the plane. I feel like I blacked out. Like I knew I was doing it, but it was kind of like there. And then before I knew it, it was like the shoe opened, and it was that silence that just comes when your shoe opens and you're like, oh, I'm not dead. Right.
Yeah.
And then it just evolved from that into something different. And whether you're showing up in your business, in your personal relationships, or for your New Year's resolutions, or you're trying to revamp your lifestyle changes and your mindset, just give yourself an opportunity to try something different and understand that changes can be made, adjustments can be applied. Nothing is written in permanent ink, but give yourself an opportunity to show up and see what happens. You know,
That's so great. Like you're asking permission for yourself to have an opportunity. Think about that.
yeah,
Like you're giving permission for yourself to have opportunity to either be in good health, good, maybe a better job,
yeah,
all that. And giving yourself an like, you see what I'm saying? But in
yeah,
essence, you give everybody around you an opportunity,
yeah,
because now you're blossoming into something that you've never been in. Like, that's so amazing what you said. Like, just, I don't know, it's just crazy that you're giving yourself an opportunity. Why wouldn't you?
yeah.
That's the question. Like, why wouldn't you? Like, if you have it here and you're listening to your faith-based or whatever you're listening to, and it says, hey, you should do this. Why are you not listening to that?
Yeah.
Right?
And
I
a
don't know.
lot of times people have that gut feeling, right? They'll call it a gut feeling or a
Yes.
knowing, where it's like, oh, I
Yes.
should do it. And then something comes in. What is it? Fear, self-sabotage.
What if?
Your mind starts to
Freaking
creep in.
what ifs.
Or in your ear, you can hear like your mother or your caretaker saying, don't do this. Our family never did this.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have the feeling to jump, jump. Don't let anyone around you, in your mind, in your environment, whatever it may be, because I know for a lot of things I can hear my grandmother's voice and I have to be like, nope. Right? You have to cut those voices out, because our caregivers have planted seeds, whether they are seeds of doubt, seeds of worry, seeds of fear, or they're seeds of empowerment and joy and courageousness and all of that. So you have to really take time to understand yourself and understand the difference in those gut feelings and those intuitive nudges, and when God is connecting to you, when your angels are connecting to you. Because I always know that whatever I do, I'm going to land on my feet, but everything is temporary, like I said
Yeah.
earlier, right?
Yeah.
So the good, the bad, the meh,
Yeah.
it's all
Yeah.
cycled
Yeah.
and it's all in rotation. And I
Yeah.
trust that even on the days where it's really sucky or it's really challenging, I take a breath, I ground myself, and I remind myself that this is temporary. And so when you're having a good day, when you're having a good week, when you're having a good business month, breathe, give gratitude, give thanks. It's all temporary. Enjoy it. Stay connected to people first. And that goes for yourself. Give yourself permission to be who you want to be, who your soul came here to be, to help the people that you came here to help. If this podcast can touch anyone, if this podcast episode, if this series, or we're calling it a segment, not a series, if this can reach anyone, just know that, I know for Bryan, for myself, we want people to feel empowered to show up for themselves. We want people to feel empowered to chase their dreams, to live the life that makes you freaking excited to wake up, to dance the music, to get your house prepared, to get people in your home ready to go have a great day, right? And sometimes it doesn't always happen overnight. It takes practice. It takes practice. And there's this quote, I've read it before on different trainings and stuff, but it's by Denzel Washington. And he says, dreams without goals are just dreams. And ultimately, they fuel disappointment. On the road to achieving your dreams, you must apply discipline, but more importantly, consistency. Because without commitment, you never start, but without consistency, you'll never finish. And
Amen.
I look at this quote every single day. I come into my office and I remind myself, even on the days where I am challenged, I'm in pain, maybe my daughter's having a mental health day, or maybe, there's chaos going on around me, or something didn't go as expected, which expectations lead to disappointment. So try to not have them. And I just remind myself that every effort is a step forward. Everything that I am doing is a step forward in some aspect of life, relationships, health, business, goals, whatever category it may fall in. And that taking those steps will still get me to where I'm going, just, with more grace and patience, as opposed to trying to race to the end and then not be able to hold what it is that I was manifesting or desiring or trying to create, because those stepping stones are preparing you. Those stepping stones are preparing you to maintain what it is that you are creating. So as Bryan mentioned earlier, take 5 minutes with your family to work out, to do something silly on YouTube, right? Take 10 minutes to schedule on your calendar those breaks so that you can reset your mind in the way that you're thinking and feeling. But ultimately, it comes back to you starting with a choice, right? The choice to decide that this is what I'm going to do, that I'm going to begin with this, and these are my options. And allow yourself to build that community, to connect, to network, to receive support without fear of receiving support, because there are so many people who are in quiet desperation, waiting in quiet desperation for something that you have to share, a message you have to share, or an achievement that you have accomplished that they need to hear about. So just understand, if the people around you right now are unsupportive, there are millions of people in this world who will support you and who need to hear what it is that you have to share. So show up for yourself, do your thing. I know that was a big spill, but I just had to get that off my heart. And I know that we're going to wrap up here in a few minutes, but was there anything else that you wanted to?
No, I just want to say thank you for letting me be on today. I love watching you grow. You are a positive light in my life all the time because I watch your videos and stuff. And just like you said, like at the end of the day, if anything, we just want that, if we're just the light switch that turns on your light bulb, then we're winning, and we're winning together. And that's all we're looking for, is that spark. And we're just here to share our experiences. And maybe some of our experiences will help you not go through some of the woes that we've been through.
Yeah.
Because it's been a long ride. But I wouldn't trade it for anything. Because it made me who I am today. And so, but I've trained myself to be a more positive person every day. And so, but yeah, but thank you, Kendra, for all you do, empowering others. It's amazing. And I hope I can help in that, venture as well.
And I have absolutely zero doubt that you'll fall short of that, because I know that you made an impact in my life when I was a private, new to Fort Bragg and all of that. And you honestly, you have something about you, like when people are around you, you allow people to feel safe to show up and try. And that was really big for me, especially back then. So I just want to say thank you for being you and who you are, because that impacted me and how I showed up in the future when I became an NCO and I started having my own combo shops and doing all those other things. Like, you imprinted on how I became a leader in the military and in my own life as well. So I don't want you to think for 1 second that you didn't, because you did. And it's an honor to have you, to share space with you. And I look forward to having more of these calls with you, because I know that you are going to change the world. And I have no doubt that the listeners who are on right now are going to connect with something that you have shared. And if you are listening, well, obviously you're listening, but to the listeners, go ahead and send us your questions, because we're going to continue this segment. And if you have questions that are specific for either one of us, that's fine, or for both of us, just send them in. I'll have all of the information in the description for my email, for Bryan's email, so that you can connect with us and just send them in and we can answer them on the next segment. Or if it's really personal, perhaps maybe we'll see about just answering via email, and we'll kind of go from there. So make sure that you hit subscribe and you stay tuned so that we can stay connected. And it's been such an honor having you on, and I look forward to our next session.
Indeed.